Hello and welcome. It's been a very exciting day so far at the Senate at the impeachment trial. Joining us now at the Senate floor is Rappler's editor-in-chief Marites Vitug, who is also the editor-at-large. Rappler's editor-at-large Marites Vitug, and the author of Shadow of a Doubt, along with Ateneo School of Government's Dean Antonio Viña. Hello, welcome both of you.
Hi.
Marites, good afternoon. Let me throw the first question. Marites, highlights, the key moments right now.
Well, I think Justice Cuevas tried very hard to taint the credibility of the Ombudsman by saying that she's a biased witness, that she has a beef against Corona because she did not vote for him, or she did not agree with the decision of the court to have him appointed as Chief Justice. And so that went back and forth. But I think it pointed to a weak defense because eventually, as the private prosecutor Ayo Bautista said, as well as echoed by Senator Drilon, it was precisely the call of the defense to subpoena the Ombudsman.
Correct. There were really three things, right? The first is that the Ombudsman wrote a letter asking to testify first. The court gave it to her. Then the second, she established that the $10 million number came from AMLAC. And then third, now the documents are just being photocopied for prosecution and defense.
That's right.
So in your mind, Tony, what does all this mean? Where is it leading us to?
Well, it's leading us to a moment of truth. Because and really I could never I never understood why the defense would call Ombudsman Carpio Morales. It's like calling her for a bluff. I mean, calling her bluff that she didn't have anything and she was just fishing. But obviously she has something. She has something very serious from AMLAC, a list of transactions apparently involving the Chief Justice or a namesake of the Chief Justice, certainly. So that's now going to come out. It's being Xeroxed or copied for the prosecution and for the senators as we speak. And so there now we're in a moment of truth in this trial.
Fantastic. Marites, how could the defense be so wrong?
Our suspicion, and we've been talking about this, is that the Chief Justice was not forthright with his defense team. Apparently, he did not keep them informed. He wasn't upfront with them because why would the defense subpoena the Ombudsman? So it's really not knowing, not having the information.
Tony, we saw a tug of war between, it looked like two camps, right? Two very veteran lawyers and public figures. What did you make of the exchange, and what will Filipinos watching come out of it with?
Well, I think clearly on this one, as much as I love Justice Cuevas, as now having been my remedial law teacher, on this one, Ombudsman Carpio Morales comes out winner, now if you want to call it that way. Very forthright, just direct. I think Senator Enrile mentioned the word intelligent witness like 50 times in 20 minutes. I mean, yes, you have a very intelligent witness out there. You don't fiddle with her. I also think Justice Cuevas was groping all along and did not really know what she wanted from the Ombudsman. It didn't make sense. The question didn't make sense. Senator really had to help him qualify Ombudsman Morales as a hostile witness. And this attack on, self-incrimination, it doesn't make sense. There's nothing self-incriminatory when you ask someone to explain, deposits and things like that, right? I mean, a public servant needs to explain all of those things before the public and can choose not to and therefore take the consequences when they do that.
Correct.
So I think we're as I said, down to a really good moment of truth here.
Marites, Tony's calling it the moment of truth. You have been following the Supreme Court for a very long time and looking at the character of the Chief Justice as well. How could he have let his lawyers, someone like Justice Cuevas, go out there at that moment if you're correct, without the information he needed? I mean, going back on the information that you have.
Yes, having studied decisions of the Chief Justice, he really is against disclosing information. He is not a transparent person at all. In the Supreme Court cases which have to do with right to information, he votes in the negative. So it's really his character. It's his core not to be open, not to disclose information. So I think that carried on through the trial. If you remember, Maria, on the first day of the trial, his SAL-ends had to be subpoenaed.
Correct.
Did not voluntarily share them with the court, and in his latest SAL-end, he has not even disclosed this again to the impeachment court or to his lawyers.
Tony, what is
Yeah.
you again this moment of truth that you talk about, and if Marites, what you guys were discussing earlier is correct, that he just didn't disclose this to his lawyers, what is at stake right now in this moment of truth, both for Chief Justice Corona and for the Philippines, the Filipinos who are watching this right now?
Well, I think what is at stake here finally is whether we have the evidence, incontrovertible evidence, very definite evidence that the Chief Justice did not include in his SAL-end, substantial assets that should have been included. As Senator Enrule just put it right, the 10 million may not be in the allegations, but the allegation is that he was not truthful. Essentially, the sole remaining strong impeachment ground is that the Chief Justice did not disclose properly in his SAL-end all the assets that he was supposed to have disclosed, right?
Correct, yes.
And so far, in many of the things that we have seen, there's always an excuse, some kind of legal case, some kind of, there's always an excuse. And the style of the defense has been trying to find that excuse for every single omission or mistake or non-disclosure. But this is different. I mean, this is different if true. I mean, from what we are gathering, you have 79 accounts.
79 accounts.
Lots of transactions involving millions of dollars. This is not a joke, right? This is not.
Yes.
It is not explainable.
And then, well, on that point, Marites, what is at stake for Chief Justice Corona at this moment of truth?
Actually, I am convinced he will no longer testify after this, because if the documents will show after this break that he has amassed so much wealth, I don't think there's a way he could defend this. So, in fact, as we were talking, Tony said that if it's really true and it's proven that he has $10 million, that he should raise the white flag.
Oh my gosh. Well, Tony, if you were one of the defense lawyers right now, how would you defend your client?
Well, if I didn't know, I would that the 10 million was there. First of all, let's be very clear, because we also haven't seen this, right?
Correct.
I mean, and
Yes.
I was telling Marites that one potential defense is that this is false, that AMLAC is under the Aquino administration and they produced this set of documents. It's a made-up set of documents, and unfortunately, Maria, it's there's some traction there simply because of what happened in the when the LRA, remember, said 45 properties for two. I mean, so there is there's some kind of traction around that, but obviously there's presumption of regularity. Senator Enrile also pointed out, right? I mean, from AMLAC. So they could question the authenticity of the AMLAC report and say, that's all made up. But assuming that there's regularity and there's presumption of regularity here and the documents are authentic, unproven to be so, and I think it's all over. It has to be all over already. And I, as a lawyer, I would say to my client, it's all over. And I would personally resent if I were not told that this was in fact, that these accounts existed. And in the amounts that we're talking about.
Interesting. Here's an interesting question from social media, from Twitter, from @Chico_Ching, and you can take this either way. Writes, will there be an effect to the trust of the people in our judiciary department if Corona is found guilty, and why?
Oh yes, definitely. In fact, even before this impeachment trial, trust in the court has been eroding because they have flip-flopped on several important cases. And I can anticipate that if he's declared guilty, then all the more there will be, erosion of trust. However, this should be an opportunity for a new leadership in the court to reform judiciary. This is a very low point, but it's an opportunity again for whoever becomes the next Chief Justice to undertake reforms and restore the trust in this institution.
And I do have to say, Marites, if this, Maria, if this is again confirmed, these amounts involved in these transactions, that as there might be corruption in the judiciary,
Correct.
this sui generis corruption. I
Yes.
mean, really.
Yes.
I cannot imagine many justices or judges getting $10 million from somewhere. I mean, it's just it's mind-boggling again if this is true. And so I would in that sense, right? I mean, in fact, what I've always been afraid of in the way the impeachment has unfolded is that Corona might actually be seen, including by the judiciary, as an exception. And therefore, there's no change needed because it is an exception.
Yes.
It's not like us. It's doing something that's not like us, right?
Yes.
And therefore, then it doesn't really have a real positive value for the Philippines and for judicial change. But having new leadership, of course, would matter a lot.
No, but I
to get
think
this
the
to happen.
public will be more vigilant. I think
Well, that will happen.
I think litigants will be more scared to bribe their way. I mean, I hope that lawyers will be more forthright, and maybe I'm hoping that there will be more awareness of the public, and that's a good start.
Why don't we start first with a description from each of you of the judiciary as you see it today and how these developments can affect the way Filipinos look at it. Marites, I know it's very broad, but let's peg it. Let's call it. Marites, how would you describe the judiciary today, and how does today affect that perception?
If you talk to a lot of lawyers or litigants or the public, those interested in the Supreme Court and the lower courts, there's really they're losing confidence. I think the most basic reason is the delay in the resolution of cases, because justice delayed is justice denied, and then they attribute this to the use of influence of powerful litigants, corruption. So there needs to be, that's the way it is perceived today. However, in the surveys done by Social Weather Station, even if the Chief Justice, even if Corona had a negative 14 satisfaction rating, the Supreme Court still was above 30, I think, percent, which means that they looked at the Chief Justice differently.
Separately from the
Separately
Supreme
from
Court
the
itself.
institution. So there's still really hope that the institution will stay respected, although it has to gain more
Yes.
of public's trust.
Tony,
Yeah, it's like the government in general. I mean, the experience with the judiciary, particularly by lawyers, is always mixed. That means to say there are good judges, good justices, good clerks of court, good sheriffs, and there are bad ones. And I think what has remarkably changed sort of over the last 10 years is that there's so many more reports at the Supreme Court level and at the Court of Appeals level of corruption. But it doesn't mean that everyone is corrupt in the Supreme Court or everyone is corrupt in the judiciary. I think though that this focus on the judiciary with this impeachment is going to be good and will have a long-term impact on us. I mean, one good thing really in the last 2 to 3 years is the increase in compensation in the judiciary.
yes.
Just for the last 5 years, just looking at the compensation of Chief Justice Corona, the legitimate compensation, made me realize that I can, it's actually okay to be a justice of the Supreme Court. It's not a big sacrifice as it used to be. You know what I mean? And I think that's true for judges. That's true for prosecutors. So I'm seeing more and more of my students from mainly from UP College of Law, because most of my students are that are now lawyers from the UP College of Law are joining the judiciary, which is a good thing, and that's partly because of all the reforms that have been done to make it more professional. The work that Philippine Judicial Academy is doing is really making that difference as well.
If these papers are found to be authentic and the Chief Justice really does have $10 million that has not been declared, we have the top official of the judiciary in this position. I mean, first, what will happen to the man? What happens after this point if the documents are authentic? And then what do you see? I asked this earlier again, the impact on the judiciary you've just described.
Well, just with respect to this to the Chief Justice, if this is shown or if this is true even before it's actually shown, he would, I think, help himself and help the country if he resigns. That's the first thing, so that we get this over with.
But would he face cases, for example?
Once he resigns, then he can be charged with graft and corruption. He can be charged by Ombudsman Carpio Morales, and he should be charged if in fact this is true, right? I mean, he should not be allowed to just resign and go quietly into retirement, right? I mean, if this is all true, so charges can be filed. Criminal charges can be filed against him. Restitution.
Mm-hmm.
The government can file charges to have some of the money returned, forfeited. If it's a huge amount, as I said. I mean, but as I said, we don't know. And I mean, and I think it's important to look at what those documents say, to see how they respond. If they question authenticity, it is important to get to the bottom of authenticity of the documents, and that for me is required by due process and good for this because of the political undertones under which the impeachment has been conducted.
Yes, and Marites, you talked about you had a lot of hope. Even if the documents are proven true, that reform is possible. What impact do you think this can have? What are the first steps that should happen after this?
I think since the Supreme Court is the most opaque institution in this country and maybe in this planet, then now there will be a demand for public scrutiny, for openness, and actually we can start the new leadership can start by opening up its budget, submitting accountability reports to the budget department and to Congress, making their financial operations transparent, because then this will ease doubts and questions about how the Supreme Court operates in terms of managing its finances. And then there should be now we have found a route, the public has found a route to investigate impeachable officials through the Ombudsman's office.
Yes.
By sending a complaint. This is a new route. We didn't know this before.
Yes.
By sending a complaint, attaching reports. But maybe the public could do more work by really looking at documented information. Then the Ombudsman can pursue it. So that for me is a positive outcome of this.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. We have Marites Vito Grapplers, editor-at-large and author of Shadow of a Doubt, the book on the Supreme Court, and Ateneo School of Government's Dean Antonio Viña at the Senate, speaking with us. Thank you for taking us at this moment of truth. Looking forward to speaking with you again as the day moves on. There is a press conference ongoing now with the defense. We'll take you there. Stay tuned.